Hi everyone, and welcome to episode I've lost count of the Technology for Good show. it's, it's actually episode 87, but due to an oversight, all previous 86 episodes have been lost. Oh my god!
I know. All is not lost. You're still working.
See if we can recover them, but the YouTube account that they were associated with has been disabled, and therefore the videos were deleted, I think, by YouTube. Anyway, that's that's the bad news. Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. How are you doing? Tom Raftery here with my co-host Chris. Chris, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Chris Kernahan. I am a principal consultant with Bluefin Solutions and an SAP mentor. And in my day job, I get the highly dubious honor of playing with lots and lots of SAP technology, which I thoroughly enjoy. And in my home life, I drive my wife and my daughter nuts by playing with technology in general. So yeah, I love technology, and I'm very happy to be here. Thank you, Tom.
Not at all, thank you. Happy to have you. And I'm Tom Raftery. I'm an independent analyst working on all kinds of areas around clean tech and energy and sustainability, and hosting the show now for about 2 years, I reckon. I never took track of the date of the first one, so I've no idea now that the videos have been wiped. But it's around 2 years, we'll call it. Anyway, we're on episode 87. And we typically, on this show, we do a bad news story first, usually climate related, and then we go into the better news. And the first story, the bad news story this week, is this one. It's about how BP, who produce an annual energy outlook report, their report this year came out just a couple of days ago, and the outlook from the report is remarkably similar to the output from the 2015 report, despite the fact that 195 countries signed the climate change agreement in Paris. And if you look at the charts here, you can see, let me blow them up a little so you can get a better look at them. Hang on there. Bum, 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 bum. There, that's better.
When you look at it, the models all look exactly the same, and that is it's strange, but it makes sense in a weird sort of way, given how much BP is tied to not only the price of oil but also to the stock exchanges as well. In my head, it doesn't really have any option but to produce a report like this. And when you factor in things like the recent Supreme Court challenge to the Clean Air Act, enabling the EPA to force coal power stations to clean up their emissions, you can see that BP is probably working on an assumption that they're, if you look at the US data that you're showing there now, it's taking the view that the US is going to fight this as much as possible, especially in those highly coal-dependent states, and then it wants to protect its own sort of place in the FTSE 100 as a very valuable company.
But I mean, it's got several things wrong. I mean, and demonstrably wrong. I mean, they say, for example, that the EU, it's actually further up here. I saw it there a second ago. BP, it implies the EU will miss its own energy efficiency targets for 2020 and 2030, whereas the EU is currently roughly on track to deliver its 2020 target and will present legislation towards the 2030 target later this year. I mean, and if that's not bad enough, there's another one, if I can find it further down, which is even more ridiculous. Here it is. Renewables are expected to account for more than 1/3 of EU power generation by 2035, BP says, whereas in fact, renewables already supplied 1/3 of EU power in 2014. and that's great.
You look at the audience that they're actually playing to. and it is demonstrably wrong, and you could argue that it's, you know, it's lies.
Yeah.
Analyzing statistics and things like that.
Yeah.
But no, it's the report coming out from an oil company, and you know, they have a vested interest in making oil and petrochemicals look good.
Yeah. Your microphone is a bit iffy there, Chris.
Is it? Oh, here, hold on. Let me see if I can fix that a little bit. Is that any better?
Yes, it is. Yes,
perfect.
Yeah,
it was set to the wrong device, so it was.
Okay, that makes sense.
So yeah, so it is a petrochemical company. It's in their interest to make the report look good. But when you replay that against all the other analysts, you know, all the reports that we have featured in the last 2 years, it's a nonsense.
It is.
It's an absolute nonsense.
And you got to wonder what the kind of legal liabilities around reporting that kind of crap are.
Well, there are very strict. The SEC has some very strict rules around reporting and you know and transparency that give shareholders the correct information. So when you have a report like this, you know, they do have to be really careful.
Mm.
So they have to be very careful. So there was. Is there not a case going on at the moment? I know that with the current bad boy of pharma, he's currently under investigation for his own reporting for the company that he used to work for. And then there were other cases about companies. Tesco's, that's who it was.
What's that?
Tesco's are under investigation by the Serious Fraud Office within the UK, if I remember correctly, and this is wholly off my memory, that they were doing things like withholding payments to suppliers in order to keep their profit margins and you know their figures higher when they were reporting to the stock exchanges.
Wow.
Yeah. So there are very, very clear rules about information going back to shareholders and the correctness of that information, because it informs a great many decisions.
Yeah, that's nasty.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll plow on, and we have a good news story now, and it comes out of California, as we talked about earlier.
Yes.
And it's PG&E. And they're launching a community solar program enabling customers to go 100% renewable. And this is
wow.
It's nice. But there's more details even further down, which are even nicer. What this is it's for customers who might live in an apartment complex or something like that, who don't have access to a roof. And so what they are doing is they are building local community solar for these customers when they get enough of them, and they then send the electrons generated from that directly to these customers, and they charge them for it. They charge them a little extra, which, you know, is a bit of a downside. It's about 3.5 cents per kilowatt hour more expensive, if I remember correctly.
Right.
And no, there it is. It's 2.85 cents per. No, I was right. It's 3.58 cents per kilowatt hour for small businesses. No. Okay, I'll start again. For residences, it's 3.58 cents per kilowatt hour. For small business, it's 2.8 cents per kilowatt hour. And large businesses, it's 2.85 cents per kilowatt hour. They charge extra. And they break that out. They say for typical home owners who use 500 kilowatt hours per month, getting 100% of their electricity from solar would cost an extra $18 a month. So
that's less than the difference between what they would pay in something like Costco to Whole Foods or something silly like that.
Yeah,
it's like an organic tax.
It is. I mean, it's not huge. It shouldn't be more expensive, seeing as they'll be actually generating it from solar, which in Southern California, for example, or most of California, it would actually be cheaper than gas. So you know, it doesn't make sense that they're charging extra for it. They what they say is, I saw them explain it here. There it is. This makes sure that the other ratepayers or other customers, I love how they call them ratepayers, typical utility talk,
Yeah.
who choose not to be part of the program aren't paying for the program. So
Oh,
You know,
that's just that. Oh, that is just crazy. It's think about it. The ratepayers. We talked about this briefly before we came on. I was reading an article about the Koch brothers and their conservative ways and things like that there. And this story is absolutely so linked to the story from that article, which was that in Florida, right? In Florida,
yeah,
that scheme is illegal.
yeah, I know.
Right? The Sunshine State,
Yeah,
okay, cannot use solar. Okay, they can't. So Sun City and people like that who do the lease schemes and the buyback schemes and things like that there can't do it. Apartment complex owners cannot put solar panels on their roofs and sell the electricity back down. You can't. The only people who are allowed to sell energy through the grid in any direction are the incumbents. It is actually illegal for people, and it is absolutely crazy.
that's what happens when you allow big government. You see that it's all these. You know, if you had free market economics in there, if you had the Republicans in charge who don't like big government, I'm sure they'd get rid of that kind of nanny state.
Yeah, but they believe it is free market economics, and but the interesting
protectionism at its worst.
Oh God, I know. Oh, but one of the points they made was that utility industries are not actually geared up for any sort of change because the infrastructure projects they work on are paid off over one generation or two generations. Okay, what P&G are doing here is getting in this halfway house, so they're making the people pay for they're making the people who are going to use the solar panels pay for them, even though it's actually a PG&E responsibility, and then they're going to keep taking the money away from these customers long after the solar panels have paid for themselves.
Yeah, of course. The cool thing though about and we didn't get to this. The cool thing about California is this is further down the article. The customers there have other options though, because there's this thing called the Community Choice Aggregation Program.
Yes.
And two of the communities in California currently have that. They're in Marin County and Sonoma County, and they're in PG&E territory. And they've set up these CCA programs. That's right.
Where is Sonoma? Why is that familiar?
It's wine country.
Ah, that's why it's familiar. Yes.
So the participants in the CCA programs, they contract for their own generation and pay a fee to use the utilities wires and poles.
Yeah.
So it's a lot better scheme, and it's cheaper than the PG&E one. But the trouble is, it's not available everywhere.
Yeah, it requires a critical mass of people to make it economically viable to pay those startup fees.
Yeah, exactly.
So
exactly.
But if you live in a place that's incorporated, because of the way the United States funds its own sort of infrastructure and cities and things like that there, the way they have sales tax and land taxes and things like that there, if you live in a small community, then you can do that sort of thing, which in the UK is it's an alien idea and concept that a small city can actually incorporate itself in a tax sense and run the city like a business.
Yeah,
which is just entirely insane, but it does free you up to do schemes like this.
Yeah. Yeah. More of it, I say. Sticking with California, we have this cool news from SoCal Gas. They had that big leak, which has been going on for 4 months.
I know.
Huge methane leak going on for months and months and months. And the environmental damage from that is just insane, off the charts. But they say now they have it plugged, and it hasn't been permanently sealed. It hasn't been certified as sealed yet, but it does look like it has been closed, and they will get it permanently, we hope, sealed imminently.
Yeah, it's a funny one, this one. I've kept a track on it. I think we both came across it independently, and I'm a couple of months ago, and there was a great story on Dig the other day about the guy who actually took the emissions readings on a small plane.
I saw that.
But the what was actually really interesting in that article was that this leak in its own right, because the SoCal didn't actually announce to the EPA or the authorities that the leak had actually happened for about 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
And one of the things that was interesting was it then kicked off a project sort of within the EPA or within one of the NGOs to look at other methane pipelines and fracking installations to see what emissions are coming from them.
Probably negligible.
No, not quite. I know you're taking the piss, but yeah, it was very, very. You would fly over pipelines and you would see valves open in pipelines, that are pumping natural gas so that they didn't get a blowout in the pipeline. And you think, yeah, but you're releasing an awful lot of gas into the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Not only is the gas valuable, but you're releasing gas into the atmosphere. Oh, some of the thoughts are just unreal. But this in its own right, this as again, how they stopped it was the same way they stopped the Deepwater Horizon, which was the relief well coming in to the side.
That's right.
But it would be interesting to see what the penalties are for the company.
Yeah,
this is an American company. It's a Californian company in California, and BP is a UK company who absolutely got chinned. I mean, it really got taken to the fair, and rightly so. I would like to see a similar equitable position taken with these people, because it has been a massive environmental disaster.
Yeah, it has.
So it has.
It's hugely increased California's emissions.
Yeah. Because the other thing is, doesn't the United States measure its own? The EPA measures it on a state-by-state basis.
Yeah.
It doesn't take it on and it fines the states individually.
Yeah.
So it does. So there will be a political fallout for California, which is already has its own deficit after the fantastic governorship of Mr. Schwarzenegger.
I'll be back.
Not in this lifetime. They loved him. They loved him as a person, all the rest of it. But he crippled that state economy.
Yeah, he did. All right, we'll plow on, because there was some amazing news this week. And when I was looking through the stories this week, there wasn't a huge amount. It was a quiet week.
Yeah.
And I think everyone just decided, you know what, we'll wait till next week till all this gravitational wave stuff passes by, because it's just going to completely swamp the news. And it did as soon as it was announced, and even before it was announced.
Yeah.
Before it was announced, everyone was speculating about it. And then when it was announced, everyone just went ballistic, and every other story got kind of drowned out. So the news is fascinating. It's kind of the last bit of Einstein's theory of relativity, which hadn't yet been proven or demonstrated. And it's basically, it says that space-time, which is kind of like a fabric, can have waves in it when it's disturbed by massive events like black holes or galaxies crashing together or things like that.
Yep.
And because these gravitational waves don't actually interfere with matter when they encounter it, it makes them extremely hard to detect. And so they've never been detected.
Yeah.
And they set up these big detectors, 2 in the US, and there's a third one, I think, in Austria.
Italy. It's in Italy. It's coming. It's undergoing a refurb at the moment. It'll be active later this year.
That's right. And the 2 in the US were 3,000 miles apart, one in Washington State and the other down near Florida, somewhere like that.
Yep.
So, almost as far apart in the US as you can get. And that's important. And each of these detectors basically had 2 tunnels, which were about 4 kilometers long, and they were perpendicular to each other. So kind of an L shape.
Yep.
and they fired laser beams down the arms of these, and they hit a mirror at the end and came back into a detector, and they should, using interferometry, cancel each other out. But if they don't, it means something has shifted.
Yeah.
And when you've got two detectors 3,000 miles apart, both detecting the same phenomenon, it kind of speaks to there being a phenomenon and not that there's a problem with the angle of the mirror or anything like that, or it's not some local seismic interference or anything like that. So, and when they get the third one in Italy online, they'll be able to use it to triangulate exactly where stuff is happening.
Yeah.
Which makes it even more interesting, because what this, so the announcement was in these two detectors, they did actually detect gravitational waves.
Yeah.
And why it's important, one of the main reasons why it's important, well, two main reasons why it's important. First is it proves Einstein was right. Again.
I wonder if that guy ever got bored of being right more often than the statistical anomaly would let you be.
He's dead 60 years. He
can't bored.
he didn't know when he died.
Yeah.
He might have had a hunch, but
one or two. The
other interesting reason why, or the other reason why this is so interesting, is because this is a new way now of looking at the universe.
Yeah.
Currently, we look at the universe through the light spectrum and the electromagnetic spectrum in general, and we can see things that way. We now have a new, completely different way of analyzing the universe using these detectors, and we can see things that we'd never be able to see before using these gravitational waves. We'd see a disturbance in the force, if we want to put it that way.
No, you're absolutely right, because gravity doesn't attenuate.
Yeah.
Oh, in the electromagnetic spectrum, it attenuates. There is a point so far back in the age of the universe where you actually can't see any further back, because the electromagnetic spectrum wasn't there. Yeah. And there was a period where you couldn't see any light because the universe was opaque, and then before that there were no, effectively it was just this plasma, and gravity doesn't attenuate, so you can actually go so much further back. I'm so massively impressed with this, because for two reasons. One is the length of time the experiment's been running for, which has been since 2002.
Again, they had to do a refit in the US, like the one they're doing in Italy. The detectors they had before weren't sensitive enough to detect these.
No, because and when we say sensitive enough, let's put it in the context, right? It has to detect a movement which is less than the width of a proton.
Yeah.
Right? That is, they have to use laser because lasers are a coherent beam of light. So they don't disperse. They are a focused, coherent beam of light, which is continuous and all the rest of it. And but because the difference is so small, it means it gets affected by everything. So the amount of noise you have to cancel out, the signal to noise ratio is massive in the favor of noise. So they have to use supercomputers, and they modeled so accurately the signal that would happen when it went through the detector and it stretched and compressed the detector. When they looked at it, they went, "That's perfect." I mean, the mathematical model matched. The mathematical model matched so clearly what happened physically in this detector. I am not surprised that they went absolutely ballistic, and you had Lawrence Krauss tweeting about it, and Brian Greene and people like that there. Is it scary? I know the names of more scientists and physicists and sports people.
I think you get the priorities right.
I think so. But yeah, so no, this is one of those ones. And I saw a lot of people on Twitter yesterday going, why is this so important? And you think, because it's awesome. Because of what they actually accomplished. Measuring that small a distance over and keeping an experiment running for the better part of 15 years when so many other science projects have had their funding slashed and all the rest of it. And the only purpose really of this experiment is to detect gravitational waves. And they managed to keep it running.
Yeah. Is
phenomenal. That is big science, and that is good big science. So it is the same way the LHC is so important as well.
Yeah, it's funny. I heard people saying that this was as important as the Higgs boson,
Yeah.
and the thing about it is the Higgs boson, that's Nobel Prize winning stuff.
So it is.
This can't really be, because there's who would you give the Nobel Prize to? There were hundreds of people involved in this, and there was Einstein, and he's dead.
Yeah, but the thing about it is that you can actually give the prize to. I think you can give the prize to the institute as much as to the individuals. There's the experimental design that actually went to do this. So what you can do is actually, it's the same with. Now let me see. I'm just trying to think back over the last, because Peter Higgs and the team got it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So those people are still alive. The teams around graphene and things like that. They have there are hundreds of people involved in many of the graphene experiments and things like that there. So they may be able to give it around experimental design and actual measurement and that type of stuff. Because the mathematical models as well, Einstein predicted the gravitational waves through the equations of general relativity, but the actual mathematical models of what that looks like in terms of its effect on the world, they may win a Nobel Prize.
Isn't it insane that a guy who predicted this stuff in his theory 100 years ago, now 100 years later, we actually get to prove him right by physical observation?
I know, it's just nuts. Well, okay, let's look at it another way. Leonardo da Vinci, the first real helicopter, the first real sort of proper helicopter that flew was in 1923. Leonardo da Vinci was drawing these stuffs in the Middle Ages.
Yeah, so submarines as well.
Pardon?
Submarines and tanks as well. He designed.
Exactly. So, but no, it is nuts. It's nuts that somebody predicted something in mathematics that it took us 100 years to get to. And when you start to look at things like 11-dimensional theory, supergravity, string theory, and things like that, there's stuff that we do not currently have the ability to measure and things like that. There, can they eventually be proven 100, 150 years later down the line?
Yeah.
Don't know. Just because we can't do it now, it doesn't mean to say it can never be done.
Yeah. It's mad.
Brilliant. Phenomenal.
It'll be amazing to see what these detectors now see as a result of this.
Oh yeah, totally.
Anyway, we'll move on. We'll stick with. No, we won't. That's a bad segue. I'm going to try and drag cloud into it and upper atmosphere, and no, it's just stretching it too much. We'll just go straight into it. Netflix has gone to the cloud, but this has been a 7-year journey for them. But last month, they shut their last non-cloud service down, stuff they had in their own data centers, and now they are completely 100% all in on AWS.
Yeah.
It's a pretty impressive achievement. And they say that it saves them a fortune, which is impressive too, because you often hear people say that, for once you start getting big, the likes of AWS becomes too expensive. Whereas they actually say that it lowers the cost for them. So that's impressive. It's AWS, so it's not as green as it could be, we have to think. But still it's consolidating, and it makes the whole thing far more flexible and efficient for Netflix.
So, but Netflix is a socially aware and socially conscious company, and at the end of the day, companies do A, what is right for them, and B, sometimes what they're pressured into.
Yeah.
And having a company like Netflix so embedded with Amazon may actually encourage Amazon, or they may use their ability within their influence within Amazon for them to be more transparent.
Hopefully.
But it's interesting because the journey took 7 years because they didn't just lift and shift their workloads, carbon copied into the cloud. They spent years architecting and working with Amazon and the Amazon roadmap in order to get this done. And it's fascinating for me because it's a great use case, even in my day-to-day job, where customers are asking me, how do we move to the cloud? And sort of the first answer is, well, tell you what you don't do. You don't take your existing workload as it runs now and put it in the cloud. You take what is good about the cloud and you change your workflow and your workload to match that. Otherwise, this is where you get into these things where people say it's really expensive because they're running cloud infrastructure the same way they ran on-premise infrastructure.
Yeah.
And that's a hugely inefficient model to do it. But if you go on to Netflix's GitHub page, some of the tools they have open sourced are just nuts. We talked, I think, about the Chaos Monkey before, which randomly goes through Netflix's infrastructure and turns stuff off. That's could you imagine? Let's take BP for example. They're running all their stuff in the cloud, and somebody goes to the CEO and says, "Yeah, we've got this great tool. It runs around our infrastructure and turns stuff off." You see the CEO going, "What? Why?" Because we want to check its resilience. Oh, that's okay then. Some of the stuff they do is just so left field, but it is amazing. It's brilliant. It's I think we've had Netflix at Monkey Grab before, haven't we? I think
at Monktoberfest. Adrian Cockcroft was at Monktoberfest 2014. Gave a great talk there. Yeah,
the guys that they put up talking at DevOps days and conferences and things like that there have some of the best stories. Have some of the most unbelievable stories about scale, about culture, about ways of working. It is a brilliant organization. So it is, and I thought they had already gone all into the Amazon cloud by this point already, but now
they still had one or two legacy systems obviously hanging on there. They were afraid to turn off. The Chaos Monkey couldn't get at them.
They're all obviously SAP then.
You mean these four walls?
Absolutely.
We'll plow on. The next story that I thought was interesting was this one. It's kind of a comms story, and it's how Facebook. I told you it was a slow week. Facebook are testing SMS integration on Messenger on Android, and also launching multiple account support.
They tried to make me sign up for it, and I said no.
Why? Which do they try and make you sign up for? Because there's two things there. There's the SMS integration and multiple account support.
No, the SMS. They wanted me to sign up for the SMS. So as I said, I got my Nexus 6. It's on Marshmallow. I installed the Facebook Messenger. It said, "Do you want to integrate your SMS?" I said no. I'm quite happy with my Hangouts. So I have my Hangouts app, which is my consolidated sort of Hangouts, which is the equivalent of iMessage and SMS. That's all I want. I don't want to integrate my SMS with Facebook. I have enough trouble using Facebook Messenger on my phone.
You do?
Well, I don't mean trouble. I mean it's a conflict for me.
Because it's Facebook.
Yeah. Although they've done an awful lot of the permissions and things like that there, and Marshmallow is a lot stricter with its permissions. So whenever you install an app for the first time, if it's the up-to-date version of the app for Marshmallow, it only asks you for a very specific subset of permissions, and then as you use the app, if it needs, so let's say for example I'm using Slack.
Yeah.
I've just installed Slack, and it wants access to the mobile network and data and all the rest of it. Fine, no problems. And then I want to take a picture. So all of a sudden, it now asks me, can Slack get access to the camera?
Yep.
At the point in time it needs it. So I can say yes or no. So at the point of installation, I'm not taking this list of permissions that I never read. Now what's happened is Android are forcing the app developers to apply for permission at the time of first use of that permission.
Okay.
And so you can allow it or deny it. So, for example, Quiz Up, that wonderful thing where I can play quizzes against anybody in the world, it wanted access to my contacts and my phone and my SMSs.
Okay.
I said no, and the game won't run, so I've uninstalled the game. So,
but I guess I could understand why they want access to your contacts. Otherwise, I mean, they try and pair you to play against people you know first. No.
No, unless the thing about it is that on QuizUp, when I first installed it, when I had it on the 1+1, I specifically, I don't remember asking me for contacts, but in order for me to find my nephew to kick his butt at general knowledge and things like that there, and generally ruin his day, I had to search for him. So it didn't try and pair me with him. It just wanted access to my contacts.
Wow. So
it did. So if you actually do a search for it, Quiz Up and privacy, it's fascinating. It's scary. Wow. So I because of the way Marshmallow deals with app permissions, I was a lot more informed on what it was doing. So, but getting back to the original point, yes, Messenger, I do actually quite like Messenger. I like it a lot more now that it's on the Marshmallow platform because I am more informed about what it's doing.
Gotcha.
And I can provide it with the correct permissions. So I can. So thoroughly enjoying it. But I'm not letting it anywhere near my SMSs.
Okay.
No.
Fair enough. And another story that I saw that I thought was really interesting was this one. Sorry, a bit of a cold. Now it says, cheap smartphones. The headline, I think, is the wrong headline. The headline says cheap smartphones are to propel app spending past $100 billion. And it's obviously an American publication. Well, it's Bloomberg Business. Yes. So, they go with the 100 billion, the big number. Wow. But where I think it's actually more interesting is they say, if I can find it in the article, it's
the first paragraph there. It's the second paragraph, sorry.
Yeah, that's it. The use of smartphones and tablets will more than double to 6.2 billion by 2020, up from the current 2.6 billion.
Yeah.
Now that's amazing. That's between now and 2020. So, 4 years, we're going to get almost 4 billion extra people using tablets and smartphones.
Yeah.
That's fucking enormous. That's nearly, that's nearly everyone on the planet.
It is.
6.2 out of a current 7.1, Okay, the 7.1 will be probably 7.3 by 2020, but still, 6.2 out of 7.3, that's almost everybody on the planet.
I suspect it'll only be those people without fine motor control who won't have smartphones or tablets, as in children.
Yeah, probably. But I mean, when you think about it from that perspective, that's an extra 4 billion people. I tweeted and Facebooked about this earlier today, and I was saying, if you are making apps for the smartphone, you now have an extra coming 4 billion potential customers for it. And if you're making software that does good for people in general, you now have a chance to make it an enormous change. It's phenomenal. It's huge. You now can get software into the hands of literally every person on the planet.
Yeah. And I can guarantee you Mark Zuckerberg will be right there beside them. So I
flying drones overhead as well.
Oh, speaking of it, you didn't happen to see an article in the BBC that the Metropolitan Police are actually training eagles to take out drones?
I saw that. Yeah,
that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Shouldn't really be necessary, but it is just nuts. But yeah, that is a massive explosion, and the interesting thing is that the telecoms infrastructure that's going to be necessary to support that number of devices, access to data, it's so different, and where it actually gets a little bit scary is, we occasionally I see these articles about how smartphone usage and tablets and things like that actually change, and the internet change how we think and how we assimilate information and things like that there.
Yeah.
And when if all these doomsayers are correct, then we're all stuffed. So we are. We'll never have an original thought ever again, and we'll all have short-term memories like goldfish because we rely on Google so incredibly much. And we will never ever again watch a concert with our own eyes. We will all watch them through our smartphone screens because we're all going like this.
And recording them.
Exactly.
And uploading them, which would put even more strain on the telecom system.
Yeah, I have to say, actually, I went to the U2 concert in Belfast, and I didn't record a single second of video because I've never rewatched any video that I've ever taken at any concert ever in my life.
Yeah.
So I decided, you know what, I'm actually just going to watch it. And it was a wonderful experience. And I didn't get any grief from Lorna. So that was also much better than normal. So, yes.
That's important too.
Very much so. Very, very much so.
Another one of the stories that I thought was fascinating this week was this one, and we talked briefly about this before we started. So Qualcomm, who make chips for lots of different companies, have announced a new LTE compatible chip that they're going to launch with this new Wear platform. And basically, the subhead gets it right there. What it is it's they want to break you having to tether your wearable, be it your Fitbit or your whatever, with a smartphone, and the wearable will have an LTE chip inside in it, so it can communicate directly. And why that's important is because if they manage to do that, and they do it, as they say in the article, LTE is generally not very power efficient, but they say that they've made this one power efficient, so it shouldn't be a drain on the battery, which is impressive. But it means that, rather than having your smartwatch having to go through your phone and your heart sensor go through your phone, and all your devices having to go through your phone, each one could be operating independently. You might not need to have a phone at all. And suddenly you get into a situation where all kinds of connected and connectable and even previously thought to be non-connectable devices can now be connected without having to go through a phone. They can just connect directly. They also say that the chips will have intelligence built into them, so they can do a bit of calculation on the data first and just, decide what to upload and what to not to bother uploading.
Yeah, but it goes back to, we have talked many times about sensors and things like that, and especially remote sensors that
you can think of smart meters, for example.
Yeah, smart meters. The ability to use LTE to do that type of stuff is just phenomenal. And as I said off camera before, I was in Paris for a couple of days. It was at the SAP Innovation Center in the Sud-West, and they talked about the difference. So in the Irish or in the Rugby World Cup, all the players had sensors in the back of their shirts that detected G-forces, acceleration, all that type of stuff, and it was absolutely phenomenal. But it's illegal to do it in football. Now, when you get to stuff like this here, then that type of thing becomes more open to all types of sports. It doesn't have to be massively organized sports, because you've got the chip actually there, and you can send data directly to wherever you want to.
And in time, that chip will be sewn into the fabric.
Yeah, it'll probably actually use something like a piezoelectric or something like that to actually create to create the power that it actually needs if it becomes that power efficient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it does so. But the Snap, this is the thing. Qualcomm is an amazing chip manufacturer. The Snapdragon range has really taken the device world by storm.
Yeah. So
it has but they're all based off ARM. ARM chipset. So
that's right.
the Snapdragon, like this has a Snapdragon in it. So it does. This is the 64-bit octa-core or something Snapdragon in there. It's just nuts. So it is absolutely nuts.
Impressive. We'll plow on. There's still a few stories to get through, and we're rapidly coming to the top of the hour.
Yeah.
I'm getting some feedback there as well, Chris.
Let's see.
Could you turn down your speakers a shade?
Oh, of course. How's that? Better?
That's better, yeah. All right, next story is this one, and it's an interesting one again. It's again an IoT story, and basically it's talking about how the new Chrome for Android will be polling for beacons and announcing them to people. So as you're wandering through shops or wandering around museums or any of these kinds of things, anywhere where there are these beacons, the phone will light up and let you know that they're there. So it'll be listening for them and alerting you to it. This is obviously Chrome on Android only. It's not an iOS one, but they're starting to call it the physical web, because now physical devices, these beacon devices, little Bluetooth antennae, basically, start to take on a broadcast life of their own and start to announce, their presence and alert your phone and whatever.
It's like, correct me if I'm wrong, because I have genuinely been confused over the past about what the beacons actually do. The beacons push information to, because I know that you can use beacons in art galleries and things like that there, and as you say, as you wander around, the beacon will present information to a device. So whether it's your smartphone or one of their tablets or something, and you can use it to get more information. But I have always struggled with what the beacon derives from you in terms of what information you provide to the beacon in general.
Yeah, I'm not 100%. I have a feeling it's a bit like a barcode, in that it's pre-programmed information per beacon. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong on that. Your sound isn't great there, Chris. I'm not sure what the issue is.
Let me go over the headset. Let me go over the headset, see if we can make it any better.
All right, cool. I'll move on to the next story while you're doing that. And it's this one about Google again, but this time it's more on the security side of things, and it's for Gmail. And basically they've said that now when you're using Gmail, it'll warn you when you're sending and receiving email over unsecured connections. So they're trying to make they're trying to make SMTP the default. And you can see it here. They switched to HTTPS for web traffic on Gmail. So when you're getting Gmail through your browser, that's what it is. And it's end to end. So when you do Gmail to Gmail, it's secure. It's secure all the way. They're saying now that 50-something% of the traffic over Gmail is encrypted. I can't remember where that figure is, but it's in there somewhere in the article.
It's 57%, and then 81% of outgoing messages from Gmail are encrypted.
Yeah, that's it. So I mean that's awesome. I mean the more secure stuff is, particularly email. Email has proven notoriously hard to secure, and it's very easy to break. This is obviously, Gmail is so widely used now. It's awesome to see these kind of numbers around secure email out of Gmail, and the fact that they're pushing it so hard.
Yeah, no. Well, at the end of the day, Google want to, if the email's encrypted on their servers and things like that, then they're not. It's not so much they're not responsible, but certainly they are less exposed in terms of risk.
Yeah.
So they are. Yeah. So it makes sense So I'm sorry, Cortana just activated for me there. So yet again, see, it pops up in the most strange places. It really is quite weird. But yeah, no, like you think about the number of people that have Gmail addresses and what they use them for. I know people who have multiple Gmail addresses, and they have one for shopping, they have one for newsletters that they get they sign up for and things like that. So especially the shopping ones and things like that. Having encrypted and secure email is the right thing there. 100%, and having such a visible notification that an email is unsecure is very useful.
They're working on authentication as well. I forgot to mention that. It's here. I'll pull it back up on the screen, and that's very important as well, because what they do is they'll put. You can see there in the image on screen the unauthenticated email on the right-hand side there, where it says online banking limited. If that were a large bank like Chase Bank of America or some one of these, and you had this question mark logo on the left instead of the actual logo of the bank, what that means is that Google have been unable to authenticate that it actually came from the bank saying it came from. So when you see that question mark there on your Gmail, you've got to get very suspicious, because it would be very unusual for a large organization to have unauthenticated emails.
Yeah.
So we'll keep going. We're going to skip a couple of stories and then move on to the next one. The next one that I thought was interesting, and it sticks with Google, is this one about how Google Forms are getting add-on support, templates and things like that. And I don't know, have you used the Google Forms at all, Chris?
I have used Google Forms in the past, just for general sort of little quizzes and things like that there, or feedback. That have been very, very useful. I know, for example, DJ Adams at Q Macro, sometimes whenever he finishes a project, he actually sends out a little Google form for his end of year feedback, which is very useful. So they are great. They are great.
They're really impressive, and I've used them from time to time as well, just running little surveys and things like that. And they're very nifty. And you can see the example they're doing here is using an add-in for a maths quiz. So for teachers, they could use something like that. You've got templates as well, so the whole thing starts to become a lot more polished. And it's a really nifty product already. So I haven't tried it now since I've updated it, but it looks like it'll be pretty awesome.
Yeah. I do love the way it'll just stick everything into a Google spreadsheet for you as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Makes data analysis so much easier. Yeah.
Moving on. The next story, I better line it up before I swap screens, share the screen, is this one. Oh, my video just gone to hell.
Whoa!
Come back, Tom.
Infinite scroll.
I'm not sure what happened there. That's better. So Kickstarter have announced that they got to 100,000 successfully funded campaigns.
Wow.
I think it's pretty amazing. I really do.
Yeah.
It's the model is a little odd, the Kickstarter model, I gotta say, in that it allows people to get funding for projects without having to give away equity in what it is they're making.
Yes.
They give away the product, or sell the product at least, but they get the money up front, which allows them to make the product. So it's a nice, I mean, it's the ultimate in crowdfunding, obviously, and they're not the only ones. There's a lot more platforms to do the same kind of thing, but Kickstarter were the one, that became biggest, fastest.
Yeah.
Indiegogo is another one which is quite good as well, for example.
Yes, that's true.
They've got some funny numbers coming out of this as well. They've got, as we said, 100,000 projects. So that's there. One of the more interesting things is that came from only 86,000 creators, meaning 14,000 successful campaigns came from creators who'd already had at least one success. So that's pretty good. So that's, if you're good at doing something and you get it funded, you go back again, and people who have funded you before would be likely to trust you and fund you again.
Yeah.
But they say it had over 8,500 successful campaigners launch at least one more successful project, and one person managed to get 94 of them funded.
That's just nuts. That is nuts. But Kickstarter is one of those things. I think Dennis Howlett did a really good article in Diginomica about the economics of Kickstarter and what it is you're actually doing with Kickstarter. It's a very particular type of investment, but it's one of those sites that it is genuinely about the optimistic opportunist. Optimistic opportunity. The optimistic opportunity. You want people who invest want to see the absolute best in the platform and in what people do. From that point of view, I think it's one of those platforms that needs to stay around, because there's so much cynicism in the world that platforms like this that really embrace optimism and the power of potential are just so important.
Yeah, no, it's true. And, you're right. Because I'm optimistic by nature, I have funded several Kickstarter and a couple of Indiegogo campaigns as well.
Yeah.
And, I've never been disappointed.
Yeah.
I know there have been some spectacular failures and things like that, but I've not been disappointed. I've been lucky so far.
Yeah, but to be honest, the spectacular failures, as long as they are a very, very small percentage, they serve as the reminder to people that investments can go down as well as up.
Yeah. And a lot of times you're protected as well. By Kickstarter, there was this Spore one, which was supposed to be this laser razor thing.
Yes.
And that got kicked off Kickstarter. It then went on to Indiegogo, but it got kicked off Kickstarter, and because they didn't think it was a viable product, and nobody lost any money.
Yeah, that's good.
Except potentially the Spore people.
Yeah, perhaps, but oh well.
Yeah, we'll keep going. The second last story today is this one about Google developing a standalone virtual reality headset. We've seen a lot of hype around virtual reality and augmented reality as well. It's cousin. Yeah. I've got one of these Google Cardboard boxes and tried it out, and it's pretty cool.
You?
Yeah. Did I not show you that?
No, I haven't actually seen. I haven't had a chance to do it. So
I'm sorry. No, I got one. I got it on Amazon, and it was, I don't know, €30 or less.
Yeah.
And it fits the phone perfectly. I mean, they're generically sized, so you can stick almost any phone into them.
Yeah.
And you download the Cardboard application, and you stick your phone into it, power up the application, and away you go. It's mad. It's really impressive.
Excellent.
And the kids love it. They really do. The only thing about it is you use it 5 or 6 times, and then you get tired of it and go on to the next thing. So if you've got a short attention span like myself, it's perfect.
Yeah.
If you're someone who's capable of focusing for longer than 2 seconds, you're in deep trouble with it, because
yeah.
But the whole VR thing is really slated to take off this year, and with that in mind, Google have decided to make a more advanced version of their Cardboard. I mean, the Cardboard is just basically a piece of cardboard folded well with two plastic lenses for eyepieces, and that's it. That's all it is. So it's extremely simple. Oh, there's a rubber band in it as well. It's extremely simple. But now they're going to get one that has some compute power built into it and will function as a VR headset without having to be plugged into a computer. So,
wow.
The idea is pretty fantastic, and if they pull it off, they'll really shake up the whole marketplace. And I have no doubt that they're capable of doing exactly that. What their plans are for the space, is anyone's guess, obviously. But it's phenomenal to see more and more people coming into the space and shaking the market up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love AR and I love VR.
Yeah.
So AR is just one of those things that depending on which platform you're using, you can see completely different things. London is a very, very different city when you look at it through AR. So it's a very different city. But there you go. Let me tell you what I've seen.
I hear you. Yeah, the augmented graffiti.
Oh yes, and other things. But we'll let the viewers decide and try it out for themselves.
Alrighty. So the last story that I saw today is a little disappointing, unfortunately, but it's good. It's good that the story is out there, and it's good that the story is based on some really impressive data. So so many of these stories are opinion based, whereas this one is based on actual hard data. And what it is researchers looked at the code on GitHub to see the pull rates. Yeah. And they broke it out by gender, and they discovered that women had a higher rate than men, which was not what they expected to find, because they were expecting to find bias against women. But then when they went back to go over the data a second time, and they looked at the women who had submitted code, they discovered that it was the ones who were the ones who hid their gender, the women who hid their gender, they had a much higher rate than the ones who didn't.
Yeah.
So, it's a real, you wonder what the hell is going on. I mean, why in this day and age? What the hell? I really don't get it.
I don't get it. It drives me to distraction. It really, really does. Every study, everything that we read, everything that we come up with shows that diverse workplaces and diversity strengthens and improves product stuff, everything. And yet,
the more opinions you bring to the table, the better. And the more opinions coming from the more diverse backgrounds, obviously. Yeah.
I would counter that with you have to have an effective way of actually dealing with it, all those diverse opinions, and having the right frameworks in place. Quite often people just bring an awful lot of opinions to the table and then just end up not making a decision. But the thing about it is GitHub is a crowd-based, what should be a proper crowd-based meritocracy. Because people get favorited, people get pull requests, people get forked, and things like that there. It all sounds very painful when you describe it to people who don't understand. People get forked, stabbed. But no, and it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't. Yeah. If I get a pull request from somebody who's done some code, then I should look at the code, and if the code's good, then I bring it in. It should be that simple. I shouldn't care about their gender.
Exactly.
And it's a disappointing, small-minded attitude. That's what it is. It's small-mindedness and it's hateful.
Yeah, I really don't understand it. I mean, why would you care? What difference does it make? If the code is good, the code is good. It doesn't matter the gender of the person who submits it.
No. I have committed some horrific acts against software development in my time. I'm sure there are Geneva Conventions that ban me from writing production quality code or putting code anywhere near a production system. DJ Adams is doing his best to change that fact. But the point about it is, why should my code, which is absolutely ridiculous and awful, be considered for a pull request over someone like, I don't know, one of my colleagues, Lindsay, who writes phenomenal code. it boggles me. It's ridiculous and stupid. So I don't want to entertain it anymore.
Good.
Stupid sexist developers and people in general. But anyway, go on.
All right, that's it. That's our show for this week. We will be back next week, same time, same channel. Well, actually, this channel, which is a new channel.
Yes, we need to update our subscriptions. So I'm going to have to go down to my smart TV and update my subscriptions now. So,
alrighty, we shall see you all again next week, and have a good week in the meantime. And same bad time, same bad channel.
Cheers. Good weekend, people. Bye.